security forces. This is the end of one of the bloodiest chapters in the history of Sri Lanka. Now it is believed Prabhakaran tried to escape in a dramatic breakout from the army encirclement. A suicide squad of the Black Tigers, they broke through the 53rd Division's cordon. Prabhakaran and his top aides came out of their hiding, and then in a small convoy, there was a jeep and an ambulance. They tried to drive out through this breach. They were challenged by an armored personnel carrier of the Sri Lankan army, and they were gunned down. In fact, so bad was the firing, the jeep caught fire. Headlines Today was the first channel to confirm the identities of Prabhakaran and Pottu Aman. They have been positively identified as dead. Headlines Today is the only channel to continue to report from the battlefront, giving you all the latest. And for more on this, let me take you straight to my colleague Shiv Arur, who's been tracking all the developments there. Shiv, a brilliant operation by the Sri Lankan security forces. It lasted for 2 years. In the end, they've achieved their target.
I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that the political machinery was robustly behind the military operation, Gaurav. They didn't give the LTT even a little bit of breathing space. The only latitude they really had was sporadic press releases and appeals to the international community to intervene and to stop the violence in the north. But if you're talking strictly militarily, this will probably go down in the annals of military operations in Sri Lanka as the most concerted, the most unrelenting and orchestrated military operation that the Sri Lankan military, which obviously has a huge amount of experience in battling the LTT, has ever really been able to achieve. And this was really a tri-service operation, Gaurav, as you
Right.
well know. In the initial days, it involved the Air Force and the Navy. Finally, of course, it boiled down to just the Special Forces regiments of the Sri Lankan army. But if you're talking just militarily, not politically, not talking about the Tamil cause, this will definitely, without doubt, go down as the biggest accomplishment for the system ever.
Shiv, the Sri Lankan army, they fought the LTT before. There were 4 wars, but this time they really armed themselves. They increased the number of troops they had. They got new weapons. As you pointed out, tri-services operation, Army, Navy and Air Force. There was a diplomatic offensive, but apart from that, Colonel Karuna's defection perhaps was a shot in the arm for the Sri Lankan forces.
Most certainly, Gaurav. Most certainly. I mean, apart from the fact that Karuna Aman was inducted into the Rajapaksa government, probably as a perspective exercise to show the magnanimity of the Rajapaksa government, he obviously had his general views on the ground. They must have obviously tapped him for tactical inputs about how the LTT would behave in certain military situations, what the minds of Pottu Aman and Prabhakaran, how they really function. There probably would have been no one better than Karuna Aman to actually give these inputs to the military planners of Sri Lanka. I mean, his contribution will probably never be known, and I'm sure he's sighing a huge sigh of relief now that Prabhakaran has been identified as being finished. But his contribution to the entire military machine will be inestimable. It will obviously always be classified. It will be top secret for security reasons. But I imagine, my guess is that he must have provided them with a huge number of strategic and tactical inputs about how to really go about this operation. He has a deep knowledge of this that very few others do have.
Okay, Shiv. Now, while there is celebration in Colombo, there is also fear of a revenge suicide attack. Take us through what the country is doing, how the country is reacting.
There's a great sense of jubilation on the outside, Gaurav. People were bursting crackers through the day. Citizens are congratulating each other. There are smiles all around, but there's still a recognition that things should be proverbially really over on the ground, because the police, the National Security Administration here has issued an advisory that there could be attacks, and Colombo and other urban centers have been put in a state of high alert. We just drove back from an area where we went out into Colombo, and there is visibly more security than there normally is. There are more army personnel, there are more police, there are more paramilitary forces outside. So it's definitely a country still on the edge.
Shiv, for the moment, thank you very much. A country that is still on the edge. Look at the difference in reaction on the either side of Park Strait. Jubilation in Sri Lanka, despair on this side of the Park Straits, at least in some parts. Colombo is celebrating, as Shiv was just telling us. It's the end of the LTTE, but it is a completely different story in Tamil Nadu after the death of Prabhakaran. DMK boss M. Karunanidhi, he urged the centre this morning to influence Colombo to address the humanitarian crisis. Of course, by the time the Chief Minister did this, Prabhakaran was already dead. MDMK Chief Vaiko is learned to have withdrawn into a shell after the news of Prabhakaran's death. Earlier today, Vaiko had said he was in touch with the LTT top leadership and they were alive. Other political parties have maintained a stoic silence. Sympathizers in Chennai maintain the Tigers will re-emerge. Okay, so for a reaction on this side, let me take you straight to Priyamvada in Chennai. Priyamvada, take us through how Chennai and how Tamil Nadu is reacting to this news of Prabhakaran's death.
Well, Gaurav, Shiv was just telling us a while ago there is jubilation and celebration in Sri Lanka, but here Chennai and Tamil Nadu is completely clouded with sadness. The political leaders, none of them have reacted. Even the LTT sympathizers, also leaders like Vaiko and Thirumavalavan, who have known Prabhakaran closely, who had interacted with them personally, are refusing to talk to any of them. They are refusing to pick up the calls. Our sources are telling us that they, as you rightly said, they have withdrawn themselves from the entire world activity, and they are largely blaming the international community and India for not acting on Sri Lankan Tamils issue, and now they feel it's like the end of the road and the sufferings of people of Tamil Nadu will continue. That is what all the leaders are saying. Literally there is mourning and grief. The entire area is here is clouded with grief, and of course the security has been beefed up across Tamil Nadu to ensure that there is no violence.
Right, Priyamvada, for the moment, thank you very much for joining us. We will, of course, come back to you for more as the situation develops in Tamil Nadu. Now, Prabhakaran's rivals dreaded him. His followers, they treated him like God. His revolutionary ways aimed at winning the Tamil Elam. Now, that has come to a bloody end today. He was born in 1954 on the 26th of November. Prabhakaran, he acquired an aura of invincibility. His revolutionary zeal, his ruthless elimination of rivals, including Tamil moderates. He was quite an enigma. Now, Prabhakaran started the Tamil Tigers when he was barely 18. He was known for his military leadership. Some say he was trained in India. LTT was divided into several wings. There was an operational wing. Even the operational wing was divided into Air Tigers, Sea Tigers, Black Tigers, their suicide squad. They had a separate intelligence wing, a political wing and a finance wing. Of course, despite his relatively small size, his army fought 4 wars with the Sri Lankan army. Then Sri Lanka sought help from the Indian security forces. The IPKF was sent to Sri Lanka in 1987. There was a token surrender from LTTE, but LTTE soon took on the IPKF. A fallout of the accord was the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi in 1991. Sri Lankan President Premadasa was assassinated later. Now LTT, they've assassinated a president. They tried to assassinate Chandrika Kumaratunga. They've assassinated a defense minister, a foreign minister, a national security minister in Sri Lanka. Their militant methodology ultimately sounded their death knell. A guerrilla force which tried to take on a conventional army. They failed. Of course, Prabhakaran is dead. His son Charles Anthony is dead. He is Prabhakaran's eldest son. He was very high in the LTT hierarchy. He was the head of the Air Tigers. Charles Anthony held a very, very senior position. He headed the LTT's technical division, including the Information and Technology Department. Prabhakaran, he was often criticized for sending thousands of child soldiers to war while giving a luxurious life to his children. Charles Anthony is also understood to have